Hi, this is Tira Mitchell from engraver.com, and I have David Holloway with me today. He's a jeweler, and I find his jewelry fascinating. And welcome, David.
How are you? How are y'all doing today?
Good. Now, where are you located?
I'm in Northwest Arkansas. It's
Okay.
nice and rainy here today.
Kind of the same here. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like
Sure.
how old were you when you got started in jewelry?
I started late. I actually was a junior, I guess technically a senior in college. I just started my senior year of college, and I needed to get a job to help pay for college. And it was one of those things that I needed a job, so I went out and looked and tried to find a job. Ended up stumbling across an ad for a goldsmith apprentice, and I was like, that sounds like a really cool gig. And so I applied and ended up getting the job. And 2 weeks later, I quit college, and here I am 18 years later.
So did
I guess
you
it'd be 19 years later now, but yeah.
So did you just know from the first get-go of what you were doing in that job that this was going to be for you?
It probably took, I was probably on day 3 that the first day I was like, this is, really cool and interesting. The second day was I'm going to call it slightly monotonous because I was literally doing the exact same thing I was doing on the first day, which is, I knew nothing. I'm not from a jewelry family. Like I knew absolutely nothing when it comes to anything in regards to this career. So the first 2 days literally amounted to me melting a bunch of scrap silver into ingots over and over and over. Well, and sweeping the floors, of course. All of the normal janitorial things that newbies do. And then I literally melted the same. I started with just some scrap, silver dust, and melted it into an ingot. And then I remelted it and remelted it and remelted it and remelted it for literally hours on end. And I did the exact same thing the second day. The third day, we got to start actually doing stuff with the silver that I had learned a lot, which you don't really realize you're learning that until you have worked something like that many times. You start noticing the differences, in the melting temperatures right before the pre-melt, and you can start reading the metal when you do that hours on end, which is the whole point. And
so it's kind of a paint the fence, wax the car moment.
Yes,
huh?
It's exactly like that. Yeah. And then, so then the third day, I really kind of caught there was, a light switch clicked on, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. How can I turn this from a, kind of a part-time gig into a full-time gig? And he said that we can totally do that, but I'm not going to pay you if you do that. And I said, okay, let's do that. He's like, if you want to go full-time, he's like, then, it's an apprenticeship, and, the money's not the same. And I said, okay, that's cool. Let's do that.
So how many years or what period of time were you doing that until you really were competent in that job?
I mean, it took, I started, I had pieces, it probably took a year plus or minus before I would say I was competent. It probably wasn't really that long, but it just depends on what your standards are, I guess. But yeah, it took a while from that standpoint, from what I would say would be competent. I never, I had pieces within probably 3 months. I had like some little simple bracelets that I'd made that they were selling, from that standpoint. But, I worked on, mainly the first several months, I worked on making components, learning how to read metal, as far as while you're working it from the raw metal into, what you're actually creating, learning how to, carve waxes and cast and, all of that kind of stuff. Just learning the kind of the back end of how to make jewelry. I did that for months before I actually started making, a piece that you could say was a sellable. And then I never learned how to do repairs ever. Like literally one of them just showed up one day on my bench. There was a ring sizing on my bench like one day, And I looked over at David. I'm like, was this supposed to be on Chris's bench? And he goes, no, you know how to do that, right? And I'm like, okay. And so I did the sizing. So
where did you go from this first job? What was
sure.
the next part of your career progression?
Yeah, so I ended up, after 3 or 4 years there, I managed that shop. Was in charge of all of their like back end stuff. And then I moved to another store in the same town, and did all of their custom stuff as well. I'll manage their custom and repairs and all that kind of stuff. And then I did that for another 3 years. So about 7 years in, then I started Holloway Designs, and and then the rest is history, as they say.
Okay, and your Holloway Designs, from what I understand, you don't actually have a store in the conventional sense of store. I know you have a studio and a shop that you work in by yourself, but could you tell us a little bit about how your current model is working?
Sure. Yeah, I don't have, and I haven't had a physical location that customers or clients come to for, I guess it's been almost 4.5 years now. And I did for a while, but I don't currently. And I have no plans on opening up one anytime in the future, currently.
How do you see clients then?
I go to them. So I travel to literally anywhere they want me to meet. If they want me to meet them at their house, that's fantastic. At their place of business, that's fantastic. They want me to meet them at a coffee shop down the street. I've met everywhere from park benches to, airports to, literally, I don't care. I just don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Wherever you want to meet me, I'm good with that.
Where's the strangest place you've met somebody?
The strangest
to talk about jewelry.
The strangest place I've met anybody was probably a bench in the middle of a mall. Was the craziest thing ever. The guy he actually managed like a mall, like a store at the mall. He was like a senior level manager for a mall, I won't say what store, but for a store at a mall. And he met me on his lunch hour, like literally on a bench, like you'd see in these, they have like benches in the middle of these big wide aisles in malls. We met on a bench in the middle of the mall. It was very bizarre.
And how long do the meetings usually take when you see a client for the first time?
Sure. First time meetings typically are a little longer. I book all of them for a minimum of 2 hours. And I will never book more first time meetings. So if I have more than one first time meeting in the same day, I never book more than 2 in the same day, because they can run. I don't set time limits. I think that learning about your client and who they are as people is way more important, especially for first time meetings. As an artist, it's really important to get to know someone on a personal level versus, see shiny thing, here's shiny thing, buy shiny thing. I'm not that guy. That's just not who I am. I want to find out who you are as a person. I want to find out what makes you tick. Even the subtle things that you may not realize is what making you tick. I'm trying to pay attention to all kinds of stuff, your dress, your mannerisms, there's just gobs of information that you can glean from people if you actually sit down and just have a conversation with them. And then you can, once you leave there, every now and then you'll have one where you can design the piece almost instantly. It just pops in and it's perfect. But most of the time, I typically kind of take a few notes and, head back to my shop and, let it stew for a little bit and then come up with something.
And from that point, when you've actually talked with the client, you have gathered whatever information they've told you, their budget or whatever it is that they are looking for, what do you do then? Do you do like a CAD or physical drawings, or
Sure.
How do you go about that for the next time you see the client?
Gotcha. It depends on the client. So sometimes, I'll do a pencil sketch. Sometimes it's a CAD drawing. It really just depends kind of on the client and how because some people can see stuff and some people can't. I have one client, for instance, that he rarely sees anything at all, which is kind of an interesting thing. He literally says, "Hey, I'm ready for my next piece. Make me something cool." And that's about all the instruction I'm giving. It's literally just make me up something that's cool. that's it. And so, and you know, and we've made, I don't know, like 10 or 11 pieces together. The first piece, which is actually that we did together, actually was a pair of cufflinks that I believe you guys have a picture of. There were like some pearl cufflinks that I made for him. Was the first piece that I made for him. And I think there was a lot of trust that was built in, you know, in that relationship and when we built those. And
I think we have a picture. Can we put that one up, maybe?
Okay, which picture?
The pearl cufflinks. Since you brought them up and we're talking about that way, people can see instead of waiting till later for them.
Yeah, exactly. You can also go to my website and see that. I've got a video of him talking about how he made them too. But cool.
And remind people what your website would be.
Just davidhollowaydesigns.com. Nice and simple.
Okay. I think Rob is working on getting those up. Oh, here we go. There we go.
They're pretty cool. The back sides of them, I should have sent a picture of the back sides. One of them's got a Union Jack, and then one of them's got like just kind of a zigzag pattern engraved on the back. It's pretty cool. Not like hardcore engraving, but more just like lines cut with some texturing. Because we didn't do hardcore engraving.
But that would make it very personal.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is nice.
Yeah, they're very cool.
Okay.
They're kind of a mirror bowl with a. There's actually a small disc underneath the pearl that's also engraved, and then on top of the engraving, I did a clear, a green enamel on top of the engraving, and so it gives like this really cool iris pattern as the light, and you don't actually see the little disc that sits under the pearl. You really can't see it at all from any angle. You can see it a little bit in this picture, but you're in reality when you're actually looking at them, you really don't see it at all. But it creates this really cool iris, almost eyeball look, kind of striking green glow around the pearls. It's really cool.
Yeah, it looks like the light being played off there would be really neat to see.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. Okay, so I know you sent us a whole bunch of other pictures of your work. Do you want to go through some of those right now, or?
Sure, it's whatever you want to do. I'm here for you guys. That's how that works.
Okay, Rob is pulling those up right now.
I will say that I really this sort of quarantine thing has got us all a little stir crazy. So that's always a fun thing. I hope everybody's safe and staying, you know, doing the right things from that perspective. That's we'll mention that real quick.
Okay, so what is this one? Can you tell us about this?
This is a really cool piece. This is an anniversary piece that I made for someone. It's in 14 karat white gold, and it's a peach sapphire with some diamonds that they had. The two larger diamonds are diamonds that they had, which is one of the reasons why they're kind of mismatched. They're both kind of family diamonds to the client. And then, you know, I provided all the melee around the lips of the flower, of the floral arrangement. Again, it's kind of a mirror bowl kind of effect. The peach sapphire, and then also the rose gold that holds the peach sapphire really work together within that kind of mirror bowl to really bring that piece to life. And again, it's one of these weird things where you can take a still picture of it, but it's just, you know, until you see something like that in person, you really don't quite get it. And then I did a really simple line engraving, just straight lines down the sides of the shank to kind of give it a little more of a stem effect, you know, on the tops of the shanks.
Okay. And when you do pieces of jewelry now, do you post mostly still pictures, or do you post like little videos on Instagram?
Both. I do both videos and pictures. It really just depends. I try not to do all of the same thing. I try to keep it you know, to where you know, sometimes it's a picture, sometimes it's a video, sometimes it's both. You know, I can't say that there's like any real logic behind that, other than the fact that I just find that more interesting than if you always are getting the same thing. You know, I'd prefer to have something a little different. And I also think sometimes that a still picture maybe captures something that you can't get out of a video, and then other times a video captures something that you can't get out of a picture. And so it's kind of, you know, whichever one I think is the best. I do have, for almost all of my pieces, at least in the last year and a half, since probably a little longer than that, I have both video and images of almost everything I've ever done. I think there's 2 pieces that I did not take any pictures or video of, but that was at the client's wishes too. So
Okay, yeah, let's go to the next one.
this is really cool. This is a 2020 graduate, and so she loved kind of the ocean. It's got some Yogo sapphires in it from Montana, and this picture doesn't show the true purple. The upper 2 is really more of a purple. In this picture, the purple doesn't quite come out as much, but they go purple to blue, kind of like waves cresting. But it's technically a 22. There's 20 stones total in the ring. On the upper side, there's actually an M. It's got a couple stones on it, and because she graduated in 2020, and so it's thus the waves that are kind of resemble a 2. And then on the uphill side of the shank that you can't see, there's also an M for Madison, which was the girl's name, and it's got a couple stones in it to bring the total stone count to 20. So 2020.
It's a pretty cool graduation ring.
Yeah, yeah, it's very cool.
I wish my graduation rings looked like that.
yeah. I find I typically do a couple graduation rings a year. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, it's probably, I mean, they do cost a little more than like a traditional, you know, graduation ring, but it's something that, you know, she can wear literally for forever, and it's not gonna, you know, take it off that first year of college when she realizes that nobody else in college is wearing their graduation ring from high school. So, you know, I think it's a great investment. I think more people should do it. I know my kids are going to do it.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try the next one. That was actually very cool that you could zoom in there, hon.
This is a really cool, this ring is so dainty. I mean, so dainty. The stones in that ring are tiny. The ring itself is like a 4 1/4, if I remember correctly. All 3 of those center stones are less than, you know, I want to say it's like 5.2 or 5.3 millimeters length, you know, as far as with all the total from, you know, 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock on that ring. It's a really tiny, dainty ring. I set that one. All the stones in that ring were actually set. The seats were cut, and all the stones were set with the pulse graver too, which was really cool. And then, you know, the bright cutting of, you know, cleaning up the bezels and all that stuff, of course, was done with that too. But I love that tool, by the way.
Well,
if
good.
Anybody's wanting a graver, you should totally look that one up. But yeah, it was really cool. And interesting on this one, I'd never met the client ever. We met through Instagram, delivered it, you know, through the mail. They love it. It's very interesting. I've got a couple like that. Well, more than a couple, but
you probably meet the client more often than not, though, right?
Yeah, more often than not, I do meet the client. It used to be that I traveled to the clients. I have clients all over the world. I used to be, I would do a lot extensive traveling. Lately, the last couple of years, it seems like that I do more. People are coming to me more often, which is really nice for me because I don't have to travel as much. But that's really fun. But you know, my area of the woods got some really great stuff in it, some great museums, and I love to, you know, clients will come out here and hang out for a couple of days, and we talk about jewelry, and then they leave, and then we deliver cool pieces to them.
All right. How about this one?
This one also was a kind of an upgrade for 25th wedding anniversary. This one was. We upgraded the center stone to a larger diamond. All the rest of the diamonds are her stones. So we actually matched the center diamond quality to her existing stones. She wanted it to all kind of look similar. And so we actually matched the center stone to her stones quality wise. And yeah, it's pretty cool. The stones are all set in platinum, and it's got kind of a floral. In this particular picture, you don't really see it, but there's the shank comes up and kind of splits into 3 parts, and then the top kind of nestles down in there really nicely. It's very cool.
All right, how about the next one?
That one is one of my favorite pieces I've worked on. It's a huge piece, all diamonds, all platinum. It's literally half a necklace, effectively speaking. It can actually be worn. You'll note on her neck on the one side, there's just a thin wire. You can actually wear the necklace without that. So you can actually remove that portion, and we can actually shape it to the neck to where it just hangs out on your neck with the other side completely missing, which is really cool. But that has to be shaped because it's a semi-rigid piece. It has to be for that to work. Then it has to be shaped to the specific wearer's neck, because otherwise everybody's neck's a little different. And in the top, the left ear is a cuff, and it goes kind of up the ear. It's got 4 diamonds in it, and then the right ear is a solitaire. So effectively, you've kind of got a whole suite that work together. They go from a C7 brown to a white diamond as they go around the neck, and then on the cuff earring that goes up the ear, the bottom diamond's a darker diamond, and as it goes up, it gets to white as well. And all the diamonds are different shapes. It was a lot of fun to make that piece. We had it was funny that we had the day that I was picking out stones for that, I had something like 600 carats of diamonds in, because again, with all the stones changing color wise, and a color gradient, and then also each stone that's beside the other stones is slightly different shape. So there's rounds, ovals, pairs, marquee, and in order to find all that, you got to have a bunch of stones to look at. And so that was a fun day at the office.
We have a question from somebody asking David what his IG is, and I don't know what IG means.
Okay, we have somebody asking a question what your IG is.
Oh, sure, my Instagram.
Oh, okay.
My Instagram.
Okay, I knew we were going to get to at the end, but why don't you give all of your...
Sure. My Instagram is Holloway Designs. Just nice and simple Holloway Designs. You can also find me on Facebook at Holloway Designs as well. I also have a personal Instagram, which is way less jewelry related. If you just want to know, about the fun things of life that aren't really jewelry related, and that's The Bling Maker.
Okay. You want to go to the next picture?
Okay. Well, do you want to say anything about why you made this necklace, or you just had a client and wanted to have that done?
That one was made for the Golden Globes, and unfortunately that year the Golden Globes didn't actually happen. They had a writer's strike. We found out we're getting ready to fly out there and do all the stuff. We found out like 2 days before that they weren't going to have it, which is kind of a bummer. But that was made for the Golden Globes back several years ago to rock on the red carpet. It was very, very cool. I should mention on the Instagram, on the Bling Maker, there's an underscore. It's _Bling Maker. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. That piece it's pretty epic. There is nothing, no corners cut on that piece. It is amazing. We sandblasted the whole thing, except for the wire. The thin wire is high polished, but everything else is sandblasted, and it has this platinum when it's sandblasted is, especially when you contrast it with really well cut diamonds, is just awesome. And it was a really cool piece. A lot of fun.
How long did that take you to fabricate?
Oh, wow.
Roughly.
Man, that's a great question. I don't know. I mean, it took quite a few hours. Probably, I mean, it wasn't that bad, really. I mean, it's all, hand fabricated. So, melt, I didn't even purchase wire or anything like that. It's all, melted and, hand drawn wire and all that. So, I mean, had I, ordered, wire and then just snipped it, it would have been way faster. But I didn't do that. it was a lot of fun. Most of the time in that particular piece was not so much in the kind of the manufacture of it. It was more in deciding the stone layout and, you know, what stones are going to go next to what stones, and because of the gradient of the stones, making sure that, you know, the gradient is correct. You know, that there was a lot of hours spent in, you know, just kind of going over, yeah, I really like the stone. And then you'll get further down the line and then you're like, yeah, you know what? I don't really like that stone there. I want a slightly different size or a slightly different cut, you know, because it works. The irony of this piece is I actually designed it in an airport in Niagara, New York. Or I guess technically it's the Buffalo Niagara Airport, I believe. And I designed it one night. I was trying to sleep. I got hungover, not hungover, but laid over. I definitely wasn't hungover because nothing was open. The airport was closed. It was me and the guy with the floor buffer thing. You know, you ride on and you, like, you know, wax the floors or whatever and clean them. And you know, the like the little stanchion things that you have, the pillars with the little pull out ropes. You know, well, a sane person would have moved those and then drove and waxed the floor, but this guy was just bumping them out of the way with the little machine. And that airport is all concrete and steel, and it would the sound was just like echoing everywhere. And so that's actually where I came up with that design, so jagged and harsh. I couldn't do anything else, so I literally pulled out a pen and a piece of paper and came up with the pendant. That's literally how that designed, because of that. So it was finding the stones that fit with that took a lot of time. But actual manufacturing, I don't know. I try not to keep track of that stuff.
I figured you might just generally know, but okay.
On something like that, I try to forget. Way too many. I'll put it that way. Way too many.
It was that good an experience, huh?
Yeah, way too many. Most pieces I know, but on that one, I try to forget that. There might be a sore spot.
What's this one?
That one's pretty cool. That one's actually my first National Design Award winner. That one is tanzanites and a amethyst. The large stones are amethyst, small stones are tanzanites, and then diamonds, of course. That one was just made, you know, literally I made it myself. That's years and years and years old. There's a couple things on that I would do differently nowadays, looking back. I think that piece I made in, I think it would have been in 05 or 06. I don't know. I'm getting old. I can't remember. You know, I definitely, looking back on it, I probably should have cleaned up the prongs a little bit better, but that's, you know, again, one of those things. But yeah, it was really cool. It won the JA Buyer's Choice and Category 2 awards years and years ago. But it's pretty cool. On the back side of that piece, which I should have sent you a picture of, but I didn't, on the crescent, on the back side of it, the stones are all azured. And then on the back, on the gallery wire that's on the, you know, it separates it. So like on the top, you know, where the piece where the stones are set in, those are all azures with trapezoids. So the azures are all interlocking trapezoids. And then on the back side of the gallery, the part that would be, you know, where the other side where the chain will go through, I actually did, it actually reads Holloway Designs across the crescent. So like from one tanzanite all the way around to the other tanzanite, it says Holloway Designs, written out in letters that are 1.3 millimeters tall. It's pretty cool. They're all hand pierced, like pierced lettering. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Send me a picture.
I should have sent you a picture of that. I don't know why I didn't, but yeah.
Okay.
That was also my first mirror type piece as well. And you can see on there the mirror bowl really reflects the amethyst, so you get a lot of purple in the mirror. And then also I textured the crown, and so actually the kind of the gold looking kind of textured look that you see in the mirror bowl is actually the white gold crown reflecting in the bowl, which is, the bowl itself is high polished. It's really cool.
That is really cool.
That's been, I don't know how many years ago. It was either 05 or 06. I can't remember. This is a piece that I made. I actually have it with me. It's a brooch. that I made actually to wear to the Golden Globes on the red carpet. It was going to be one of my. I was going to wear it because I was going to be there. But it's very cool. It's a little arrow brooch.
Rob, can we go to David's picture right now? He's going to show us because he has the brooch.
It's like
okay,
a little arrow brooch. It's pretty cool. And the arrow, so the way you put the brooch on is you take the arrow, rotate it 180 degrees, and it just slides out. It's very cool. So that's how you put it on there. But nice and clean. And the arrow itself actually has a slight bend to it. I don't know if you can see that or not on video. There's a slight arc in the arrow, which kind of holds it. Creates a little bit of tension in there to hold it in place. And that's all, of course, hand fabricated. It's platinum and blue diamonds, and that one's pretty cool.
And you wear it weekly, probably.
Oh yeah, I wear it. Yeah, I do wear it. I actually wear it, quite often when I go to meet clients. I have that one, and I have another little flower that I wear. It's a little praisiolite and green gold flower that I wear. I actually posted it on my Instagram this morning. It happened to be what I happened to post this morning. And I wear that a little flower as well. It's about probably 1 3/4 inches tall. But yeah, so I typically wear one or the other, typically, from that perspective.
Okay. Do we have any other pictures? I know there's at least one that I saw that we haven't gotten to.
That one's really cool. I made that one for a lady. She was in. It's been a few years ago, and she was in town. Just happened to be in town for business, and walked into the store to get a watch battery. This is when I had a physical location, and she was actually from Washington D.C. and I just kind of started talking to her, and she said, I really want a nice pendant that's I'm looking for a pink tourmaline, and she didn't really have any real needs as far as wants, and so I just I asked her kind of a whole bunch of personal questions really about who she is and what she likes, and she sent one of the things I love about talking to people, especially, is if you can. Nowadays it's easy because everybody's got an Instagram, but it used to be you had to ask them to bring you Polaroids or pictures from whatever, which is kind of weird. Now you just say, hey, can I follow you on Instagram? And then you can Instagram stalk them or Facebook stalk them. And you can learn so much about people's personalities. And that's how this piece came about. Literally just in her case, it was pre-Instagram. So she brought me like 30 pictures of her, in different settings. And I don't want anytime I'm doing that, I don't want like professional pictures. I want, the pictures of you at a party, or the pictures of you hanging out with your friends, or, pictures of you on vacation or whatever. And I kind of throw all that in a pile and let it wash around a bit. And then I'll come up with something that meets you as a person. And, we literally sent it to her in Washington, D.C., and she loves it. Absolutely loves it. It's a really cool piece. Again, sandblasted with high polish. So the gemstone and all of that setting is high polished, and then sandblasted. I do a lot of, you've probably noticed the trend, a lot of my pieces have multiple textures. It's just, texture is one of those things you can paint with. I think it's completely underused. Shiny is great, but so is not shiny.
Well, kind of, if you're looking at the whole person, like you've talked about creating an art pictures, right? We all have different layers. So yep. That's kind of neat how that would juxtapose and set one off against another.
Yeah, so. I really, it's one of those things where you just don't, I don't know. It's a personal thing. There's actually, I make some pieces that have no polish on them at all. There's nowhere on it where it's polished. And then there's other pieces that every now and then I'll make something that's all polished, but that's actually kind of a rarity nowadays. Most of my clients are familiar enough with my work. And that's kind of the way that works. This one was a lot of fun. So the client came in and she actually had the diamond, the large diamond was hers, all these stones. So the diamond's a 2-carat diamond. And we pulled in the rest of them. There's some really, really cool stuff in that one. There's a tourmaline and a Preba tourmaline, which is really cool. And then the diamonds, the diamonds in the shank are her diamonds as well. So the large 2-carat quartz sort of main diamond, and the diamonds in the shank are her diamonds. And then we provided the 3 little diamonds and the 2 tourmalines. It's really cool.
We have a question.
We have a question.
Sure.
What are some favorite textures and finishes?
What are some of your favorite textures and finishes?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know if I have a favorite. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but I do love doing bright cutting, like in another textured surface, whether it's a satin I just love textured surfaces, and it really depends on the piece. So some pieces, and it's funny because I tell my clients too at the beginning, I don't plan my textures in at all. I'll tell them up front, this will probably have a texture on it somewhere. And 90% of the time, I don't know where it's going to be until the piece is halfway done. I'd kind of wait until the piece starts coming together a little more. And then, that's when I start deciding where I'm going to texture and where I'm going to high polish and what kind of textures I'm going to put. I don't know that I really have a favorite. I really do like sandblast. I think it's a great kind of sparkly. It's sort of matte, but it's not. I like sandblast a lot. But then I also like, all different kinds of stipples. I mean, you can get in there and go really, really harsh with it, or you can go soft with it. You can angle it to where it, you can, put directions in it. I actually have one ring. I should have sent you a picture of that one. Oh, well. I had another ring one time, a little amethyst ring that was just a flat ring. And we actually did a pattern in the stipple. So it was literally just a center stone on a flat, wide shank. And then the stipple pattern itself, I actually created sort of a vine coming up with leaves and sort of another little couple buds like going up with the texture of the ring itself, which was really interesting.
Was that was dependent on which way the light was on the ring, or?
Yeah, I mean, think of it like, how like with suede leather, if you push it one way, it catches the light a certain way. If you push it the other way, it catches the light a different way. You can do that same thing with stippling. If you do it properly, you can actually make the light sort of bend differently by angling the way that you're hitting the piece of metal to where it's, it changes the way the light refracts off of it. And then you can create patterns, which is really cool.
Since we're on textures, do you ever use like peening or rough hammered surfaces, or?
I've used a couple. I've used some rough hammered surfaces, but typically not a lot. Maybe that's just because I'm not the hammered look to me, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of a hammered look. I prefer my looks to stay, I'm going to call it more natural. I actually have somewhere around here, as I'm stuck to the computer, I probably won't grab it, but I've got a jar of rocks, like just literally like river rocks that I'll throw stuff in and just roll it around and tumble it around in the rocks for a minute. Just to kind of give it just a kind of a rough end texture. It looks like it's been worn for 10 years, or whatever. It really just depends on the piece. I don't do a lot of hammered finishes though. I don't know. Maybe I should change that. Who knows? Maybe the next one will have hammer piece on it. I don't know.
And you mentioned that in the last piece you were talking about, it was partly the client's own stones and things like that. Mm-hmm. Do you find are you taking clients' pieces, parts, and recombining them more, or is it completely from new? What's the bigger part of your business there?
I would say it's probably 50-50. It's pretty close to 50-50 if it's not exact, but it's, I do a lot. And I'm, maybe it's because I ask, almost 90% of the time, part of the conversation is, hey, do you have anything that you want to put in there? Do you have any, and most people have, some piece of jewelry that, their sisters, brothers, aunts, cousins, whatever deeded them, or the next boyfriend gave them, or, they purchased on a cruise or whatever. They've got something that they thought at the time they loved, but in reality, it's just not. It's just not.
Not anymore.
Yeah. It's become the 70s shag carpet of, now. And that's another thing I try to keep in mind of all of my designs. I try to design with tomorrow in mind. And when I say tomorrow, I don't just mean like literally tomorrow. I mean 20, 30, 40 years from now. I want to design pieces that will still be artistically relevant, not just today, but 100 years from now. Because the goal in creating a piece of jewelry is to make something that's lasting, that 100 years from now somebody can look at and be like, wow, that's really cool, I like that. And some pieces, that's just not the case.
I know that you happen to be standing right now.
I am.
Just because I have spoken with you in the past, and some people may not realize that you're standing.
Yep.
Would you like to talk a little bit about why you're standing and how you go about approaching tools in your shop and how those tools are laid out? Because it's quite a bit different than a lot of people.
Sure. Yeah. So several years ago, I, like many other people, started having kind of some lower back kind of tweaks. Nothing major, but at the end of the day, didn't feel great. And so I originally I went to one of those like giant medicine ball things you sit on, and I used that for about a week or so, and it was just a pain. It just got in the way. It was awful, and I quickly figured out that was not it for me. It was great while you were working on it, but then what do you do when you're not sitting on it? And I saw a thing with someone who was working at a computer desk, and it was like a standing computer desk, and I was like, well, why can't we do that with jewelry? I mean, when I'm working on the pounding bench, bending metal, I'm standing up. Why can't I do that when I'm engraving, or when I'm setting stones, or when I'm doing a sizing? Like, what would prevent me from standing up? And I thought about it for a couple of days, trying to like give myself a reason to not do it effectively, kind of poke holes in my theory. And the reality of it is there's just not a good reason not to. And so I literally went to to my shop. I've got a woodworking shop, and just made some legs for my bench and raised it up about about 17, 18 inches, 19 inches, to where it's at the level that it would be, if you're sitting, but I get to stand up. And I have another one kind of behind me. I don't know if you can see the lower level with the microscope over here versus the microscope up here. The one back here is just a wax carving bench, and I sit down with that one for whatever reason. I don't know why. Probably because I just haven't picked it up yet. But okay. Almost everything in my bench is at standing level, and I stand up literally all the time. There's a couple of things when you first start doing it, you have to kind of learn. I have become in this journey, and it's been years and years of mine. I'll call it footidextrous. I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know, bidextrous. I don't know what the right word is there. But I use my foot pedals. I use with both feet. So if you can imagine, when you're working a foot pedal, whether it's for the pulse graver or your Fordham or whatever, you have to have the ability to stand there and work the foot pedal. And so I actually get, anytime if I'm working for hours on end, you don't want to stand on the same leg for the whole time. And so I've gotten quite good at working the pedals with literally both feet. So if one foot gets tired, I just switch. It's not a big deal.
So you basically stand like a stork on one and use the foot.
Yeah, I mean, typically I'll lift, I have I'll have my heel on the floor as well. So it's not like it's not like I'm just standing there with one foot in the middle of nowhere. Typically I'll have, whatever my plant foot is there, and then the other foot my heel will be kind of resting on the ground, and I use my, toe to push the pedal. And then, if I get tired or whatever, I just switch, and it's not a big deal. There is a little bit of a learning curve there as far as to get used to it. But as to me, it's far, far worth it. I mean, I haven't had a back issue in forever. And it's really, really easy to get around the shop. The great thing about it is you never have a chair you got to worry about. Like once you get up and, you get to go, you want to go to the steamer or go to a casting or go to the pounding bench and, bang on something and come back to your bench. There's no like getting back in the chair and then trying to rearrange the chair. And then the bottom where the wheels are, the casters are on the chair, they're like rotated wrong. And so then you got to push them to like move them out of the way. And you waste all that time. There's none of that. You just literally walk over there and walk back and you're good to go. I do have like one of those like little floor mats, that you stand on, like you'd see the cash register or whatever.
Oh, one of those spongy ones.
Yeah, the little spongy ones. Yeah, I do have one of those. But other than that, that's about the only, thing that you have. But I mean, that's easy. I mean, it's just a floor mat.
Well, it's good to know that you're working that out, because I have a couple of clients who do have back issues, and they want to stand, let's say, to engrave, and they're not quite sure how that would work out. And so it's good to know that you can do that, and you're doing it by choice and very successfully. So
yeah, I feel weird sitting at a bench, because every now and then I'll go to somebody else's shop or, whatever, and you sit down at a bench and it just feels weird. Ironically enough, you actually feel less planted. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's almost like there's another variable that you have to deal with, especially when you're doing like engraving or stone setting. When you're sitting down, there's like this whole other variable that you don't have when you're standing up. Because you have to, I don't know, you just have to think about it differently.
I'm going to have to try it, because these benches obviously are for sitting.
Right.
But we made a set of these benches specifically for one client to do standing operations.
Right.
I never tried one out because they came in and they had to go, but I'm going to have to put one of these up and see how that works out.
Yeah, it's really easy.
Great.
Buy some 2x4s. My suggestion would be buy some 2x4s. Make sure that you brace them as well. You can't just throw legs on individual. You got to brace around the legs, obviously. And then I left the 2x4s whole and just cut like a little L pattern out of it. So so like the leg, if you think about like if this would be the leg of the existing bench, it kind of sits like so on the 2x4. So it not only sits on the 2x4, but it has the 2x4 going up the side. That makes sense. And so then you bolt it in from the side over here, and then run your bracing around, lower to the ground to make sure that it's nice and stable. And then that way it's not just, pin pricking on the thing like that. You don't want that.
The whole thing would be moving.
Yeah, it would be like doing this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to mess with that. You want that thing nice and firm. Now, and I'm crazy about that. So all of my benches are actually bolted to the wall as well. So like it's all, it doesn't move.
No vibration.
Yeah, it doesn't move.
Well, good.
So that would be a suggestion, I will say. If you don't have your benches bolted to the wall or to the floor, if they're freestanding, put some weight in that sucker and bolt that thing down. Do something. Movement is your enemy.
Yeah, it certainly is with engraving. I'm sure it is with stone setting too, but especially when you get into the really heavy, hard stuff, any vibration will wreck your tools quicker.
It's not just that, it's just hard to mess with, because if you get vibrations, especially when you're looking at it through a microscope, you see all that stuff, and
Now, when you're doing all of the setting and engraving, I know that you have pneumatic tools and now an electric tool.
Yep.
What part of it are you doing purely by hand versus using those tools?
I do, I definitely keep, like one of the little rubber grommet things, and then I've got a whole bunch of my old school gravers from back in the day. This one was made in 01, which is kind of cool. Like it's one of my old, like little tiny nubbies. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of those, but I don't use them as much as I used to. Especially with the pulse graver, that it's really simple to kind of tone it down if you need to do something really soft, and need that little bit of control. I do a lot of stone setting just with, a good old fashioned hammer, just a hammer and punch. I've got a whole bunch of different hammers. Some are heavier, some of them are lighter, depending on what's needed, for that particular job. And I do really like hammering, just the good old fashioned hammer and punch setup. That's the way I learned. The first stone I ever sat in ever was a trillion amethyst in 14 karat yellow gold, with a hammer and punch and an optimizer. That was my very first stone setting job, at period. And then after that, I learned how to bead set. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. So the hammer and punch has always been my friend for forever. And I've slowly kind of converted to using a pneumatic, with like the GRS system I had before, which is now in a box. It got degraded once the pulse graver, there was about a 2 weeks time span there where I had both of them out, but it came pretty quickly that the pulse graver was going to be able to take care of everything I needed from that perspective. I actually set a sapphire piece. We had a client that gave me a whole bunch of round sapphires. We recut them to be pear shapes, and then
I think we have a picture. I think we have a picture of that one.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll put that up.
The sapphire pictures. Yeah.
Yep. But so that one, and that one's all set with the pulse graver. From that perspective, that's kind of an in progress picture. You can actually see that the one stone's actually missing in that picture. Yeah, so that's kind of literally in progress. Rough. Snap the picture while you're setting the stone, so you can still see hammer tool marks and all that kind of good stuff in there. But yeah, the pulse graver set all of that. Like that's 100% pulse graver setting right there. And it's phenomenal. I really am a huge fan of that tool, by the way. I know I probably mentioned that a couple times, but it's not because you pay me to do so, because you don't. You could if you wanted to. It'd be fine with me. But
I just sent you that really cute little tag.
You did. I did get this cool little green tag. It's phenomenal. And I'll start using that shortly.
Yeah, you can start not with all your pictures, although I wouldn't mind, but stick it there.
But no, I really do. That tool is phenomenal. The one thing that really blows me away with it is how quiet it is. It's amazing. As I listen to audiobooks, so it's different than listening to music. If you listen to music, a little bit of ambient sound you can kind of overcome with the music, but when you're listening to a book, the spoken word, you really got to kind of listen a little better or have less noise, at least for me. And so not having to listen to the air compressor and even the hum from the it's just quieter. It's way quieter. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I had no idea how much noise there was in my shop until I kind of went to that, and I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, you don't realize how much it is until it's not there anymore. And then you can, it's crazy. You can almost hear the metal cutting, and I know that sounds crazy. I know, but if you've never like hand cut metal with just a simple push graver, there's like a sound that it makes. I don't know if it's actually a sound. That's probably actually not, but yeah, it probably is. But you can feel it. I don't know how to explain that. And if you've never done it, I don't go do it, and then you'll know. But if you take it like an old style hand graver, and start cutting metal, there's like a certain, I don't know, resonance that you get, and you don't get that with the GRS, and you do with the pulse graver, which is kind of cool. I wasn't expecting that. It was one of those weird things that it was a
tactile surprise.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I'm like, I just didn't expect to have that sort of feel, which is one of the reasons why I use it more than I used to split time between the hand engraving and the pneumatic engraving. And now I don't do a whole lot of it, just the simple things anymore. I just use the tool, which is great.
Well, glad it's working out for you.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's definitely one of my favorite tools that I have at the moment. That's for sure. I don't know what I would have Yeah, I think it's probably my favorite tool currently. Either that or the little, I've got one of your little self-centering, like little micro blocks. That's pretty cool too. But it's kind of tied between the two at the moment. Until the next one arrives.
Is there anything else you would like to tell people about your shop, your business, you as an artist or a person?
Sure. I mean, from a business perspective, my main thing I would tell people is sell yourself. You know, like I don't sell jewelry. I mean, I sell jewelry, but I don't sell jewelry. I sell me. You know, there's only one David Holloway. There's only one Tira Mitchell. Like there's only one of you. And there's a lot of people that do other things. There's a lot of places where people can buy diamonds. There's a lot of places where people can buy colored stones. There's a lot of amazing artists out there. I mean, absolutely amazing artists out there. And, you know, in my opinion, you should be recommending other amazing artists to your clients. You know, I know, like, for instance, I have several friends that I've sent to people that, you know, if they're going on vacation to Montana or Seattle or what, you know, or New York, I'll tell them, hey, if you're in that area, you need to go by this guy's shop because he's amazing. He's awesome. You should totally go see him. And I think that's, you know, as an artist, I view it much the same way. I mean, you wouldn't, as an artist, you don't expect somebody to just buy your paintings or just your sculptures. You expect them to be cultivators of art. And, you know, I think that we should cultivate that in the jewelry world. We've kind of lost I would call it, we've lost our soul. You know, we've become mass producing, mass marketers. You know, we've become McDonald's as an industry. And, you know, I think that's the wrong tack to take. You know, sell yourself. And in that regards, I mean, like, for instance, one of the things I do, I would recommend you guys not stealing it, although you probably can, I guess. But I wear red shoes 100% of the time. Literally, I wear bright red shoes 100% of the time. You know, because again, I don't have a store that people go to. So it's sort of a way of marketing. It's kind of an interesting, kind of a guerrilla marketing tactic, I guess. So find something that you can do yourself. Find something that, you know, that you love. I mean, it might be a certain type of shirt. It might be a certain brooch. It might be a certain hat, a certain, you know, like whatever. I don't know. Like, figure it out. You're you. You know, be you. It's that simple.
Well, it's great advice, especially unfortunately in coming to a head here in the last month or so.
Yeah.
As I think our business, as far as everybody else's businesses, are also changing. I think a lot more people are going to have to possibly rely on their own skills, own shops, and that this is a very timely in trying to get people to think about how they're going to do that as artists.
Yeah, I think you know, especially, I mean, just take the time, learn your craft. I mean, I refuse to do anything twice personally. So if I've made a piece once, I'll never make that piece again. You know, just push yourself. You know, be an artist. You know, it's that simple. Just, you know, push yourself. Do something fun. Make it fun. If you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong. Change what you're doing if you're not having fun.
So David, why don't you say again all of the ways people can get in touch with you?
Sure. You can reach me on Facebook at Holloway Designs. You can reach me on Instagram at Holloway Designs, or my personal account, which is _blingmaker. And you can go to my website, hollowaydesigns.com. You can send me messages. For that matter, if you want to call me, feel free. Shoot me a text. I don't care. Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily need to give out my phone number, but if you go to any of those places, my phone number's on there. You can find it. It's not hard.
Okay, and if you need to or would like to get in touch with me, my websites are engraver.com, pulsegraver.com. On Instagram, it's tira.mitchell. or PulseGraver. And Tira at engraver.com is my email. And my number for phone is also on all of those sites. So thank you, David, for being available. And I hope other people found this interesting, as we're all stuck in the house right now. And I learned some good stuff.
Well, hopefully I'm not too boring, but hopefully we can make it fun for you.
Oh, yes. And also subscribe both to David and to our sites so that we can hopefully get more followers and provide more content like this, because it does take a lot of time and effort for us and also for David. And we appreciate you watching, but subscribe and follow everybody so that we can do more of it.
I just want to reach out and just tell you thank you for all you guys do. You and Rob are phenomenal people. Love everything that you guys do. I've never called you guys or had any sort of random question that you guys have not been completely willing to answer. Absolutely love everything you guys are doing there. Keep up the fantastic work.
All right. Well, thank you. Stay safe.
You too.